Hi, today's project was made in ScanNCut Canvas using two fonts from Fontbundle. This is not a paid promotional video, but the people at Fontbundle did actually contact me and ask me if I'd be interested in having a look at their products. You can sign up for free and there's lots of free fonts there already on their website for you to download, and in addition, once you do sign up, they offer a free font of the week every week that you can log into their website and download and use for free. In addition, they've got hundreds of bundles already there covering every subject you can think of that you can buy at a special rate for a limited period of time. The two fonts that I used for this project, one is called Apparel, and that's what made the words here that says hope is the anchor of the soul, and it's the background and the anchor. And in that particular font bundle there's over 200 folders that have images in every one covering all different subjects that you can possibly think of. I cut that all in vinyl and put it on a tag shape within ScanNCut Canvas. And then the mum word on the bottom was another font that I downloaded, and it was called Cool Font, and within that font package there were 9 different variations of this font. So if you do go and have a look and you do buy some of the fonts, you're not necessarily just buying one font, you're buying a package with, you know, many designs in it. The apparel bundle that I used here for the anchor and the words, in that folder you've got Adobe Illustrator files, SVG files and other file formats. So I was able to open this font in Inkscape and resize it and convert it into a ScanNCut cutting file. It wouldn't open in Canvas directly because it was so big, but in today's video I'm going to show you how I opened it, resized it, and how I converted it into a cutting file, and how I did the same making the word mum. I'm not going to recreate the project, I'm just going to show you how I put it all together. Okay, so I'm back at the computer now and I'm going to show you the process I worked through to be able to come up with the project I've just shown you. So these are the two bundles that I got from Fontbundle. The first one is Apparel-Bundle and the other one is Cool-Font Bundle. I'm just going to open the Apparel bundle, and in here there are over, I think there's something like 215, 220 different folders, and in every one of these folders it's a different category and a different subject. So you've got aeroplane, ambulance, highway, trucks, cycling, all kinds of things in here, cafe, classic coffee maker. If I just open that one, so what you get is an AI file, you get a PNG, so this shows you what this font design is like. So you could print that, because a PNG is a clear background, you could print that on printable fabric that would go through your printer, or you could print it on card and frame it, anything you want. There's a PSD file, which to be honest I'm not sure what that is, and there's an SVG file which we can open in Inkscape. Now I must admit there's that many on here that I didn't have time to look through them all, but of the files that I did look through at, the SVG files are so big they won't open directly in Canvas, so you are going to need to open them in Inkscape, but that's what I'm going to show you how to do in this video. So if I just go back and I'll work my way through, this one's Hockey Heroes, so I'll just show you this one. So this is Premier League Hockey Heroes, and then there's a design there, you might be able to see it better on this one. So it's like a what do you call it, a helmet. Okay, but there's absolutely all sorts of things in here, and the one that I used, Hope is the Anchor, that's the one. So you know, these are the things that are in this particular folder, and as you can see there's an SVG file. So what I did, I selected the SVG and I just used a right click on my mouse to copy it, and then a right clicked on an empty space of my desktop and pasted it. So that put the SVG file, which is now here, on my desktop. So then I went into Inkscape. Once Inkscape was open, I then imported this SVG file. Now you can see down here I'm at 50% view and I've got a 12 by 12 mat on my page. So I went to File, Import, I went to my desktop and I found this Hope is the Anchor cutting file, and then I clicked Open. Now it takes a few minutes to come in because this is a really big image. So I'm now going to zoom to make my mat smaller to show you. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but hopefully you will. It's such a big image, it takes a while to catch up. That's my 12 by 12 mat. And this is the size of the image, so you can see how big this is. So the first thing I wanted to do was select it and drag down a corner. In fact, I'm just going to undo that because I need to lock the aspect ratio. Okay, so while it's selected, I'm going to come up here to this lock and I'm going to lock it. And at the moment, my Inkscape is set in inches, and I don't know if you'll be able to see, but this design here is just under 14 inches wide and it's over 16.5 inches high. So now I've locked the aspect ratio, I'm going to drag in this corner and I'm going to make it smaller by eye until it will fit on my 12 by 12 mat. And once I know it fits within that 12 by 12 mat, I am then going to zoom back out to 50% so I can see it better and hopefully you can see it better in the video. Okay, now this is made up of several parts. As I said, there's a PNG image. You could print this onto printable fabric or on paper and frame it anything you want, but for the purposes of making it a cutting file we need to get at the separate elements. So while it's selected, I'm going to come to Object and I'm going to ungroup and see if it does anything. Then I'm going to click off. It's taking a long time because it's got to process all the different parts because it's quite a big design. I'm just going to click up here on an empty space and see what I get and drag away. So as you can see, that's the background. I don't need that, so I'm going to hit the delete key on my keyboard and then I'm going to just click on the design again, probably on all this kind of broken up stuff here, and drag that out of the way. And again, once it's out of the way, I'm going to hit delete on the keyboard and get rid of it. And then again, I'm going to click on this and see what I get here. Now this all appears to be moving as one, but again, I want to break it up. So while it's selected, I'm going to come to Object and Ungroup and see if it ungroups. Click away. Now I've got rid of all that background stuff. The screen is responding a lot better, but it's still, by the look of it, all doesn't want to ungroup. So I'm going to come to Path and Break Apart. And see if that does anything. No, it's still not. So it's still telling me down here it's a group. So I'm going to try Object, Ungroup again. Okay, now this time it's broken up the sections of the design. So if I click on there, I've got the top half of the words, but this bottom half of the words that are the same colour are separate. So I'm going to select the top half and I'm going to go to Edit. I'm going to come down to Select, but I'm going to come where it says Select Same. And down here in the bottom left hand corner you can see it says Fill and it's showing me this beige fill colour. So Edit, select same, and I'm going to choose by fill colour, and that will now select all the objects on this page that have that same colour. So I can now drag them all off to one side. Just going to make my page a bit bigger. Okay, so I've now got, they're still separate, but I was able to select them all by colour. So again, if I just select part of a design and come to edit, select same, and by fill colour, it selects them all. And then while they're all selected, I'm going to make them a group. And then I can just move them out of the way for now. Now the next thing I'm going to do is try and get hold of another part of the design. Now I've just clicked on the white section of the anchor, and that's just chosen the anchor, but as you can see, it's got a white fill on it. So I'm going to right click down here in the bottom left where it says fill, and I'm going to make that black, just so that I can drag it out of the way and keep it separate. Now you can see here there are some palm trees that I didn't want in my design, so I selected those and hit delete. Then this one just looks like a wash kind of design background, but I suspected that there would be other things in there that I didn't want. So while it was selected, I came to view, display, and I came to outline. And by doing that, I could see that there were all these bits in here that I know I wouldn't want to cut. So what I did, while this was all selected, I went to Object Ungroup to see if it would ungroup, and it didn't. So I went to Path, Break Apart. And now it's broken all this apart. So what I'm able to do now is left click outside of the design here and just grab sections and let go, and then anything that's selected there I hit delete on the keyboard, and I went through just picking sections and deleting, because there's all these tiny little bits. I'm going to try and zoom in here. All these little bits here I wouldn't want to cut in vinyl. So you left click off the design, drag an imaginary box out, and it will pick up all these bits for you, and then you hit delete. And I work my way through, there's one there, see, work my way through the design. I'm just going to zoom back out again because it's easier for me to see when it's in full, and then I just kept deleting and clicking on an empty space and dragging and grabbing any stray bits that I didn't want. See, there's some there. And then hopefully that cleaned up that design. And then I just filled it with a colour. So I'm going to fill it with orange because that's how I cut it. So I'm going to select an orange colour, and that's set to fill. And I'm going to come back to view, display, normal, and that's filled that in orange. Then I'm going to bring the anchor back, and then at the bottom down here against the fill, I'm going to right click and choose white because I cut mine in white. And then the words I'm going to bring back in. Just before I do, I'll just select these two and move them out of the way and bring the words in. And again, I did the same thing. I went in and I cleaned it up a bit. So I'm going to fill this with a kind of beige colour just to make it easier to see on the screen. And then again, I'm going to go to view, display, outline. And again, you can see there's all little bits in here that I don't want. So I went to Path, Break Apart. I'm going to try Object Ungroup. There you go. Now this time, I'm just going to zoom in on this middle section here. And then I'm going to hit the select icon to deselect. And you can see again, I just went into a space and grabbed bits that I didn't want. So I'm going to try and ungroup it because it looks as though that's a group, or I'm going to do path, break apart. Okay, now I've got all the little bits. Sometimes you have to do ungroup, sometimes you have to do path, break apart. But again, I just went in and I just dragged my mouse around little bits that I didn't think I was going to want to cut. And I cleaned up the design. And so long as, when I'm dragging my mouse, so long as I don't select all this, it won't select everything for me. If you can see what I'm doing, I'm kind of selecting and then only dragging over part of the design, and that's getting rid of all the tiny little bits that I don't want. Just helping me to clean this file up a little bit. And that's all I did. I worked my way through, got rid of any bits that I didn't want. Sometimes you have to zoom in. And then I selected the numbers and deleted those. Then I went back to fit to map, selected all that again, made it a group, and then I'll just go back to view, display and normal so you can see the colour. And I'm going to drag a box around everything and just make sure. I'm going to go to path, combine, and that makes it all one. So now I'm going to bring it all back in, put the anchor back in place, put the words back over it. I'm just going to and then I'm going to line it up to see how it's going to look, and then I'm going to select everything, make it a group, and then I resized it. And then I went to File, Save As. I saved it as an SVG. I'm just going to call it Test. I think I saved it as a plain SVG because I think that was the default. But you can try either, but I'm sure either work, but I'm sure the default was plain SVG, and I saved it and I put it on my desktop. So I came into Canvas, I opened a new blank page, I went to the SVG icon, went to where I'd saved the file, in this case the one I've just saved on the desktop. It's there, Test, and opened it. And that's the cutting file. And as you can see, it's in the 3 sections. And then what I like to do, you don't have to do this, I like to make my fill colour the same as my outline colour. So, and sometimes I think it's better for you to see on the video as well. So I'm just going to make this a dark grey. Hopefully you'll see it better. And I'm going to leave this with a white fill and a black background, just so it shows up better on the video. And then that's the design. What I also did, once I'd made this cutting file, I thought that I was going to make it into some kind of a wall hanging home decor piece, and I wanted to use a tag shape. So I went to the machine and I found a tag shape on my CM900. Now I'm not sure if this design is on my 600. I don't remember seeing it, but it's this. I'll just bring it on. Just going to get rid of that, and it's this shape. I'm just going to rotate it. But I'm going to show you how you can recreate this if you've not got it on your model ScanNCut. But basically what I did, I just found the shape and I made it the size that it looked as though would fit over my words. Now I grouped everything together on the words and I resized it to about 6 by 5. So I'm going to take it down. It's not vital, this is, you know, just the process I kind of work through. And then my tag I made so I know it would fit once I put the vinyl on it. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to move that off to one side and I'm going to show you if, I'm just going to go to the basic shapes and see if this shape is in the basic shapes in Canvas, but I don't remember seeing this on my 600 model, but it's definitely in my 900. So I can't see it here in Canvas, but a way to make it is you choose this flag, and this is 6 inches wide. So I'm going to make this 6 inches wide. Okay, so that's 6 inches wide, but I need to make it big enough to go over here, and I also need to make this shape on the top. So we'll start with the shape on the top. So back into the basic shapes, get yourself a circle, and you can drag your circle in to give you a bigger section there. Select both, edit, center, edit weld. That makes your shape. And then I positioned my design and dragged it out over it until I knew it would fit. Now, the shape, as I keep saying, that's in the machine, you can see here is slightly less angular on the bottom. So while this one's selected, double click and you can drag the nodes down to make it more shallow. So that's how you can make your shape. So I'm just going to get rid of that and get rid of that. And then the next thing I did was I used the cool Fontbundle, and in here you've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 folders, and the folder that I used for the words were this Bianca script. So I double clicked to install that. Once that was installed, I went to the ScanNCut font converter and opened that. I typed my word mum in capital letters, found the font and saved it onto my desktop. Just going to grab this and move it out of the way. And then I went back to the SVG icon. This time I'm looking for the cutting file, the FCM cutting file. So I'm going to choose that and open it. It appeared on the page. I selected it because these are all individual letters, and I right click and grouped it, and that way it made it easier for me to make it bigger to see on the screen. Then I ungrouped it and I selected each of the letters in turn because I want to weld these together, and there's little bits here that if I weld this, as I've shown you in previous videos, these bits will disappear. So I selected each individual letter and I went to edit, subtract. Then I did the same on the next letter, edit, subtract, and then again edit, subtract. And then I just lined these up, selected them all. I went to edit, align bottom edge, so they all line up on the bottom, and then without moving them but just using the directional arrows on the keyboard, I just moved them over until they overlapped each other. I don't know if you can see here, they're now overlapping. So once I was happy that they were all overlapped, I selected them and I went to edit, weld, and I'm just going to go back to the map view so you can see, and that gave me my basic mum word. I'm just going to resize it down a bit. Now this first layer I want to be the dash line. So I'm going to, while it's selected, create myself a duplicate and just put that up out of the way. I'm going to select this first one, come to the properties box. I'm going to make it a draw line and give it a dash line. Then I'm going to come to this next one and I want this one to be slightly bigger than this. So with this one selected, I went to edit and then I went to outward and I unticked create an offset line around the outside edge only, and I made it 0.08 and said OK. And then I dragged the outward I've just made and deleted the original. This one I want to be a cut line, so I assigned it a cut line. This makes it easier for when you take it to your machine. And that's now going to sit over there nicely, but before I do that, while it's selected, I'm going to make another duplicate. So this one I'm going to line up centrally with this one. So edit center, edit middle, and then I'm going to right click and make them a group. So they were what I cut in the white card with the black dash line. And then this one I'm going to do another offset. So edit offset, I'm going to make this one 0.16 outward and round the outside edge only on this one. Going to get rid of everything else. So you can now see that this is bigger. And then this one, I'm going to come back to edit and I'm going to come inward and I'm going to take it to 0.8 and say OK. So I'm going to get the biggest one, which is going to be in the black card. I'm going to assign that a cut line only. I'm going to select the slightly more smaller one, make it a draw line, and choose my dash lines again, and then I'm going to line those two up, edit center, edit middle, and make them a group. And hopefully if I get rid of this box and bring it in, you'll see what I've done. So I'll change this one to orange, so you might make it easier to see on the screen. So this one now, if I zoom in, I'll send this to the back. So the orange cut line will have the black dash line drawn on it, and because I made an offset bigger, this black background with the white dash line, they all nest together to view, fit to mat. And then basically I selected all these, made them a group, and then aligned them up and shrunk them down until they looked as though they would be the right size for my tag. That's my design, that's the vinyl, and then this I made until it looked as it was going to be in proportion to the tag. And then I saved it all, but before I did, I ungrouped it and separated the parts. So that's what I cut in white card and added a dash line to. That's what I cut in black card and added the white dash line to. That's the tag, and then again with this I ungrouped it. Just get rid of this to give me more room. And I separated out the elements. Then I saved it all, I gave it a name and saved it all and sent it all over to the ScanNCut machine. And then I was able to bring on the parts that I wanted to cut in vinyl, cut all them, and then I was able to line them up on the tag. And I did exactly the same with the tag. I used an inward, I think of about 0.8 or 12, and I made a dash line which I drew in white pen. So again, I went and made it a draw line, and I assigned the outside tag as a cut line only. And that way, when you're doing cut and draw lines, if you make sure you assign them in Canvas, when you bring them to your machine and you want to cut and draw on the same shape, so like this, I can bring this on and it can choose draw, and it will only draw the dash lines. And then without unloading the map, I can choose cut, and it will cut the outline around the dash lines. So I hope you found that helpful. Please give the video a thumbs up if you did. Don't forget to subscribe if you don't already do so. Hit the notification bell icon on YouTube so that you get notified when I update my videos. And if you do want to go and have a look at the Fontbundle website, the links to the 2 fonts that I used for this project are in the description box below.